Hi, welcome back. I'm Swedish and I moved to Brazil over 5 years ago. And in this channel I talk about my life here in Brazil and also how I've stopped working and live off my investments. And in today's video I want to talk about how I managed to start a new life here in Brazil. So I'm going to share my experiences and also what I had to do in order to achieve it. So let's begin. Okay, so for those of you who don't know my story, so I moved to the south of Brazil over 5 years ago. And I live here with my wife, who's Brazilian, and also our daughter. And this move to Brazil wasn't easy. I'd say it's one of the most stressful things I've done in my life, but it was definitely the right decision, and I'm a lot happier here than I was back in Sweden. Okay, so let's talk about the steps that I took in order to be able to start this new life in Brazil. Okay, so the first thing I would say is that you just need to check that you are the type of person that would actually enjoy living in a different country. Because like I said, the move to Brazil was pretty stressful for me, and my life here is different to the life I had in Sweden. So you kind of have to be a person who's a bit adventurous and willing to experience new things, and also be patient at the beginning. Things are not going to be that easy and they're going to take longer than you expect. And also another very important thing is that you're okay to spend less time and be further away to friends and relatives. And I know some people who have moved to Brazil, but after a while they start getting depressed because they're not seeing their parents, siblings that often, and for them talking on Skype and just seeing their family now and again when they fly back on holiday, for them isn't enough, and so they left Brazil and returned to their home countries. So okay, so after you've done a bit of soul searching and realized that you are a person who probably can cope with moving overseas, the second thing is to choose the country you're actually going to move to. Now for me the key thing here was choosing a country where the cost of living is lower, because my aim was to create these, what I would say, semi-passive income streams, which aren't massive, but would allow me to live comfortably in a country where the cost of living is lower. So beginning I did some research. So I thought about Asia, so I visited Thailand, Indonesia, Philippines, where the cost of living is lower. But for me, I kind of felt that the cultures there were very different to my culture. Now they're great countries and really enjoyed going on holiday there, but I couldn't see myself living there because I just felt the cultures were very different. So that's why I focus more on South America, Central America, where the cultures are different, but they are more similar to Europe than Asia. South America, Central America, you've got Costa Rica, Panama, Colombia, you've got various countries. But for me, I really like Brazil. The cost of living is fairly low, and it's a big country, the economy is fairly big as well, so I just felt there were lots of opportunities and options for me if I were to choose Brazil. If you want to know more about why I chose Brazil and the good things about Brazil, I did a video about that, so I'll leave a link in the description below. So then after having chosen Brazil, the second thing was starting to learn Portuguese, because you can't survive here in Brazil without speaking Portuguese. And for me that took a long time, so I spent 2 years learning Portuguese while I was still living in Sweden, and then I moved to Brazil. So before thinking about visas, obviously I did a bit of research about it, but before doing any of that, I just started learning a bit of Portuguese. And you don't need to spend lots of money, there's lots of free resources, lots of YouTube channels teaching you Brazilian Portuguese. And then you've got apps like Duolingo and other similar ones, which you can do exercises on your phone and you're learning Portuguese. Now I did that, and I did some group lessons and some one-to-one lessons online as well. I've done a video just about learning Portuguese, so if you want to see that, I'll leave that in the description below as well. Okay, so next thing is visas. So there's various visas here in Brazil. So you got tourist visas, so you can stay for 3 months and then extend that for another 3 months. So for most people, you can spend 6 months in Brazil on a tourist visa. And for a lot of countries you don't need a visa, so you just book a flight, arrive here, show them the passport control, and you can enter the country. And that applies to a lot of European countries. Now they're talking about America, Canada, Australia. At the moment I don't think you need a visa, but I think the Brazilian government is planning to change that very soon, and these countries will need to apply for a visa in order to enter Brazil as a tourist. Then you got a student visa, so you need to do a course here in Brazil. It can be a language course to learn Portuguese. With that, you'll get a student visa where you can stay for a year, and then you're able to extend that if your course is longer. You then have digital nomad visas to prove that you're earning $1,500 per month. And with that, you can stay in Brazil for up to 2 years as a digital nomad. You then have work visas, so a company in Brazil can sponsor you, and then you can get a work visa here in Brazil. It's pretty complicated, and the company sponsoring you will have additional costs compared to hiring a Brazilian. So it's not the easiest. But if someone's working for an international company, they can get transferred to the Brazilian subsidiary, and they would get this work visa. And then finally, the most interesting one is the investment visa. So if you buy a property here in Brazil, you can get this investment visa, which is a permanent visa. But to do that, you need to buy a property which is worth over 700,000 reais in the north of Brazil, or 1 million reais in the rest of Brazil. And 700,000 reais is $140,000, and 1 million reais is $200,000. But it's not just a case of buying a property and you'll quickly get this visa. It takes time, it's a bit complicated, but eventually you can get it. And also another investment visa you can get is if you buy a business here in Brazil. And with that you can invest a bit less. It has to be over 500,000 reais, which is $100,000. And there are various rules around which business you can buy, which allows you to get this visa. And again, it's not that simple, it takes time and it's complicated. And then finally there's the marriage visa. So if you marry a Brazilian, then again you would get a permanent visa. And that's what I did. So I got my visa through marriage. There are lots of options there. And I would probably say that before you go down the route of getting an investment visa and starting that whole process, maybe go to Brazil for a few months if you can afford it. Kind of visiting Brazil and really see that you like it before you start buying a property. And also the student visa is interesting. So you book a Portuguese course at the language school, and that will allow you to enter on a student visa. And who knows, when you're there you'll meet your Brazilian husband or wife, and then you can go for the marriage visa. So there's lots of options, and I did a video just about visas, and again I'll leave it in the description below. Okay, so after that you need to decide where in Brazil you want to move to. Now, Brazil is a massive country. I live in the south of Brazil, and the south of Brazil is very different to the north of Brazil. Now, I would say that if you want to live where the cost of living is the lowest, that would be kind of the northeast, the north of Brazil. Now there, the climate's always hot, they've got lovely beaches, and it's pretty cheap, but it's a bit less developed. There's a fair bit of poverty, and also in a lot of those cities in the north the crime is pretty high. But you got some nice cities there. You got Fortaleza, João Pessoa is also very nice. And going further south you've got Sao Paulo and Rio de Janeiro, two very big cities. Now there the cost of living is pretty high. Again, crime levels are pretty high as well. And if you're a person that loves big cities, then maybe it's for you. But if you're moving to Brazil in order to lower the cost of living, then living in Sao Paulo and Rio probably isn't the right choice. And if you go to the south of Brazil, where I live, so here the cost of living is lower, not as low as north of Brazil, but it's definitely lower than Europe and America. And here again they've got some nice cities. You've got Curitiba in Paraná, Florianopolis and Santa Catarina, and in these cities crime is lower as well. So if you want to know more about these states, I did specific videos about them. Now what I did, and I think it's a good way of doing it, is first of all you move to one of the biggest cities, you rent an apartment there, you can even rent through Airbnb, and then you kind of use that as a base to then start visiting smaller towns in the countryside to kind of find something that you'd really like. And like I said, that's what I did. So I now live in a small town in the countryside, and here the crime levels are really, really low. Just as safe as Sweden. The cost of living is even lower here than in the cities. And for me, I really like it here. But I didn't find this place kind of googling it while in Sweden. I moved to a big city, stayed there, and then kind of started exploring and talking to people, and then finding the town that I wanted to live in. And then the big one is, how are you going to make money having moved to Brazil? And my recommendation here is that you make money overseas. So the income you earn, you get in dollars, sterling, euros, and then you transfer that to Brazil, and your cost of living is in Brazilian reais. And by doing that, you can have a really good life here. Because in Brazil, people earn a fair bit less than you do in America and Europe. So the income streams that I have, they're kind of semi-passive. They're not totally passive. And I love it how some YouTubers show how they just sit at the beach and the income streams they have are all totally passive. But for me, no, they're not totally passive. They're semi-passive. So first of all, I own one property in Europe, which I rent out. So I get money from that. Then I own shares, which pay me a dividend. I also do trading, not day trading, but kind of swing trading in shares. I also do crypto mining, crypto airdrops, and crypto staking. And so those 6 income streams pay me an income of $4,000 per month, and my cost of living is $2,000 per month. Again, I've done a video about my cost of living and my income, so I'll leave in the description below. So with that, I'm able to lead a comfortable life here. I mean, I still have to, spend a few hours on the computer every day. Sometimes I have tenants calling me up saying there's a problem with the property and I need to solve that. Managing my portfolio of shares and crypto and searching for new crypto airdrops. It all means that I have to spend a few hours a day on the computer. But it's stuff that I enjoy doing, so it doesn't feel like work. Obviously, it doesn't have to be investing, it's just what I like. There are various other ways that you can earn income overseas. You can provide various services online. There's accounting, there's design, there's programming, there's various things. And the key is just to find what you enjoy and then gradually start to build up an online presence. And for me, I started this when I was still in Sweden, and then I gradually started to build it up. But if you're interested in the investments that I do, I did another video about that, and I'll leave in the description below. And then finally, it's time to actually move to Brazil. Now, when I moved to Brazil, I actually shipped over a lot of my things with me. So I feel part of a container and shipped over a lot of things. But just remember, here in Brazil, some areas have 110 volts electricity and other parts have 220 volts. So where I live, it's 220, but I know lots of other areas are 110. So just be a bit careful about spending lots of money shipping over a lot of electrical items, and then you realize that actually you can't use them because it's the wrong voltage. And also, I know a lot of people who didn't ship over anything. They just packed lots of suitcases and they took everything with them in suitcases. So they kind of sold all their furniture and big items and then just took, I think, 8 suitcases with them. And obviously that's cheaper. I think you pay about $100 for extra luggage on most of the main airlines to Brazil. For example, when I shipped over part of a container, I think I paid $2,000 for it to be shipped over. But then when they arrived at the port, I have to pay kind of a specialist to deal with all the bureaucracy there. So that was extra costs. And you also have to be careful that you don't have to pay importation tax on your items. Now, I didn't have to do that, but there are certain rules that you have to follow about that. And then when you're here in Brazil, one of the first things that you should get is a CPF, which is basically a tax ID. And you'll need that for nearly everything. So buying things online, getting a mobile phone chip, renting a car, renting an apartment. And it's very easy. You just need to go to the local tax office, and it's very quick and easy. And it's just a case of enjoying Brazil and just remembering to be patient, because everything's gonna take a lot longer and be more difficult. So if you like this video, please leave a like, subscribe to my channel. If you got any comments, leave any commentary below. So thanks for watching, until next time.